And so that's the thing. And this is important. And this is, again, this is a note, a conversation that I had with Joel Smith. And if you're not following Joel Smith, go find his content, whether it's on TikTok, YouTube, wherever it is. But talking about, and this is going to be the theme for this evening, is really making sure that you're listening to what the coaches are saying when they go out there. This was something that I picked up from Joel a couple of days ago, where he's like, you know what? When these coaches are talking about schemes, where somebody fits, when a coach is hyping up a player, sometimes you obviously need to look past the coach speak. You need to look past the, like, hey, like he's a great guy type of thing. When they're really specific and leaning into certain ideas and things of that nature, you need to pay attention. And one of the guys we're going to talk about tonight is Colston Loveland and some of the things that Ben Johnson has said. And you kind of combine that with some of the things that we've seen on the field. You got to go out there and take a closer look at that. So why don't we go to Fantasy Isle? Shane, take us away.
Welcome to our Fantasy Island.
All right, welcome to the Isle, Fantasy Isle. Appreciate you being here. I am actually in a draft right now, and I missed my pick. I'm already on auto pick, and you're like, where were you picking? 1.03. I couldn't even get the first pick in the draft. I couldn't even get my first pick in. Now my whole draft is going to be auto picked. This is why whenever people ask me to be in these leagues, I'm like, I don't think you want me to do this. And I'm honestly, right now, I'm just looking to go through and retweet this so we can start getting some questions in. If you have a question, leave it. Make sure you get a question in and we'll try to address that. But we're going to go over, I have like 4 pieces of sound we're going to go through today. But mostly I want to sit here and take your questions. And the first one is about Colston Loveland. Because what we've seen out of Colson Loveland over the last couple of days in camp is that he's really been shining. Like he's really been amazing over the last couple of days. He's really stood out. And listen, coming into this draft season, just a couple of days ago, talking about the Bears and which Bears we want to draft, which is the way to go, who is the guy. And I've always contended. I said, I really like DeAndre Swift coming into this season because last time he played with Ben Johnson, he had 70 receptions. Even though Kyle Monungai and Roshan Johnson have looked pretty good in camp, still feel like DeAndre Swift's going to be the guy. DJ Moore is going to be DJ Moore. And then the rest of them, I felt like it's really hard to make a very viable case or to reach for these guys or do anything like that because, you know what, it is a situation where you don't really know, there's so many different opportunities for targets that, it's going to be very difficult. So for me, I was kind of shying away from both Colston Loveland and Cole Kmet. As a matter of fact, when you look at my NFL.com piece where I was talking about the tight ends, I even said, you got to be very, very careful with these guys. But it seems like some steam is picking up with Colston Loveland. Shane, if we could go ahead and play some sound of Ben Johnson talking about Colston Loveland.
Completely different. I can tell you from the moment he's gotten into the building, I'm just blown away by how he approaches everything. I mean, I don't think there's a guy I saw in the building more this summer than him, and it's really a credit for who he wants to be as he continues to he's attacking the rehab hard. He wants to be a factor here this fall.
And it's one of those things like, are we going to be drafting Colston Loveland as our starting tight end? No. But as we're sitting there, if we're playing best ball drafts, especially, and for those of you who are unaware of what a best ball draft is, what it is you draft a team and your lineup is based on the production of those players throughout the course of the week. Like it's like, hey, you have a team and then like your highest tight end, that player's score will go and be a part of your thing. So it's like that. So in situations like that, in traditional redraft leagues, I would not draft Colston Loveland as your number one guy. I would rather pick somebody else, whether it's TJ Hawkinson, whether it's Evan Ingram, whomever it is. Even if you draft one of the elite guys at the top, even if you're drafting George Kittle, I would still want to have Colston Loveland on my roster. That is now becoming one of the players that I do not want to leave my draft with. When I'm talking about bench guys, I've always talked about J.J. McCarthy as a quarterback that I want on my bench. Colston Loveland is a tight end that I want on my bench. I know a lot of people don't like carrying 2 tight ends, but for a lot of us, especially those of us who are in a tight end premium leagues, Colston Loveland is really starting to make a name for himself. And again, don't ignore what Ben Johnson has been saying about them. He is the kind of guy that can help you win a league. And speaking of winning a league, listen, fantasy football is fun and all, but you know what's better than winning your league? Ruling it. That's why Crown Champs dropped the hottest thing fantasy's ever seen. A real handcrafted premium championship crown, like Game of Thrones level royalty, but for the dude who picked Puka Nacua off waivers, and you don't need to sell your house to get one. It's only $2.99 a month per person. That's less than what you're spending on your fifth string tight end, speaking of tight ends. Or check this out. You can go to the app, rack up points, win weekly challenges, get voted as king, queen, trash talker, and unlock real life merch. Use code ThankRank15 for 15% off your order. I'm talking about crowns, rings, scepters, robes, stuff that'll have your league bowing down to you. Stop playing for bragging rights and try to be crowned a champ with our friends, Crowned Champs. And again, we're done with the belts. You want the crown. The crown is where it's at. Love those guys. They do such nice work over there. Happy to have them aboard. Okay, another player I wanted to get into, another rookie. We have Ashton Jeanty. And one of the things that I've noticed, and this is something that Pete Carroll said a couple of days ago, Pete Carroll started talking about his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. This is where a lot of players are going to make their money, is as receivers out of the backfield. Ashton Jeanty is starting to show that part of his game. Pete Carroll has mentioned it such, but my friend MJD was at Raiders camp this week talking to Max Crosby, who was talking about Ashton Jeanty. And you know what? I wanted to run that sound right now. Can we, Shane?
From the young rookie who did awesome in college, right? And he comes here to be your workhorse, your lead guy.
Yeah, no, he's a dog, and he's such a good dude. Like, that's the one thing about him. Like, he's such a humble kid. Like, he's another one. Like, you look at Brock Bowers, you look at Gino, look at Ashton, like, dudes that have had so much success, and you would never know if you just met them and had a conversation with them. They're such humble, hard-working dudes that, like, that's the type of teammates you want, especially if your best players are your hardest workers, you're going to have a good chance to win. I truly believe in that. My coach at Eastern, another one, Coach Creighton, he that stuck in my head. I remember that when I think it was 2017 when he told me that we're doing wind sprints and like all the top guys are the leading guys. We're dead tired, end of practice, and like it's me, it's a couple other guys. All our best players are at the front of the line. Like that's when we were at our best, is when all your best players are your hardest workers. So I look at it, now like I said, Ashton, Gino, him, myself, like the hardest workers on the team you see out there, performing at the highest level too. So it just makes everybody else want to elevate their games.
All things with Christian Wilkins notwithstanding, and that situation continues to unfold in Las Vegas Raiders camp. But you love hearing all the words that they've been saying about Ashton Jeanty being the kind of player that we all thought he was going to be. And I know a lot of Chicago Bear fans were sitting out there hoping amongst hope that Ashton Jeanty was going to fall to the Bears at number 10. Obviously, it didn't happen, and obviously he was never going to get past the Raiders. As much as I tried in a lot of my writing to be like, hey, maybe Ashton Jeanty goes this far down to the Chicago Bears, that was not going to be the case. What I do love, though, is the situation that he's in with the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, when you have a coach like Pete Carroll, there is going to be an emphasis on running the football. When you have a quarterback like Geno Smith, who is good. Geno Smith is a good quarterback. He's finally gotten his career where he's wanted it. I really do like that he has been doing such a great job over the last couple of years. I think they're going to run the ball effectively. Ashton Jeanty, to me, and we've said this, and Laquan was on the show. Laquan Jones was on the show a couple of weeks ago talking about, look, Bijan Robinson is the only running back that he is going to take in the first round, and I kind of feel the same way. I really don't want to get into the business of going running back super early. However, I really do. As I get further down the draft board, especially in redraft leagues, maybe not in a 12-teamer, but in a 10-teamer where I'm going to have an ability to kind of get some of that other wide receiver, because it just feels right for the wide receivers. Ashton Jeanty is a player that I'm really, really contemplating. If I'm sitting there, pick number 8, pick number 9, and Ashton Genty, which I assume is going to fall to me at that point, hard for me to resist. Hard for me to resist going after Ashton Genty. It is so, oh my gosh, I really want to do it. I really do. And listening to Max Crosby wants to talk. And again, I will tell and I know, listen, I see the questions. I've seen plenty of people come in here and be like, listen, is it dumb to go with Ashton Genty? I'm like, no, it's not dumb. There are safer picks, I think. But again, I don't know, fantasy is also fun. Too often we get these guys who they're acting like I don't know, maybe this is their livelihood. And if it is your livelihood, then you better not be listening to anybody like me or anybody else. You better be making your own decisions because it's your own money. But for me, I think Ashton Genty is going to come out and have a tremendous year. I really do. All right. You know what? I didn't expect this to be all about rookies, but it is. I just realized too. I want to get this clip of Travis Hunter. Now, what we've heard about Travis Hunter over the last couple of weeks is that most of the time he has been spending his efforts on the defensive side of the football, which is what we expected. He is actually going one-on-one with Brian Thomas Jr. in camp. He talked about it in the NFL Network. Shane, let's go ahead and play that clip.
I noticed in practice, defense today, you made 2 really big pass breakups, including one on Brian Thomas. What is that competition like between you and Brian?
It's a great and healthy competition. You know, he's been in the league for a whole year now. So me going against the guys that have done it at a real high level and had great stats last year, it means a lot for me to go out there and learn from the guys and try to learn how to cover them.
Now, we didn't really get many fantasy insights in there, but the one thing that I really appreciate about this situation is that we do know that he is going to end up playing a big portion of his time on the defensive side of the ball, and that's fine. When he comes on offensively, I think he's going to be very limited. So for me, and this will be one of those things, and I'll put this in an article, and I will be ready to be old takes exposed. Fantasy receipts will come after me. When we're talking about the players I do not want to draft this season, Travis Hunter is going to be one of them for me. And listen, I know, and I hate doing these stories where, hey, who should I avoid? Oh, don't say that. Never say never. If Travis Hunter is still available in the 14th round, I'm going to take him. However, all things remaining equal, he's going to be a guy who's limited to some packages. He's going to score 6 touchdowns early in the season. Everybody's going to be like, see, Rank, you're an idiot. I think more towards the end of the year, he's not going to be as consistent because it's going to be very difficult for him. However, Brian Thomas Jr. is going to flourish. I think that's what I want to go after is Brian Thomas Jr. is the guy to get. And if Liam Cohen gets this offense to the level that we all expect and want it to be, then it is going to be Brian Thomas Jr., who is going to be the one who is going to be leading us through all of this. And finally, the last little bit of sound before we go to your questions and start taking apart that. A guy who's not a rookie, but is in his first year with the Dallas Cowboys, George Pickens. George Pickens has been running the 9 routes almost exclusively for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Brian Schottenheimer talked about it. This is an older clip, but I want you to take a listen to what Brian Schottenheimer says about George Pickens, and let's go ahead and roll that right now.
I think CD said it best. I saw his comments, right, where we don't have a 1. We don't do A's and B's. We think that there's a 1 over there. CD said it. And if you look over there, there's a 1 there. So I think that's the way that we view GP. My time with him has been just incredible. When he came in after the trade, just getting a chance to really get to know him. We had a little free throw shooting competition. I think he beat me twice. I've beaten him once, but the last time we played, I beat him. So I do want to put that out there that I did beat him. But it's really just, us getting to know each other. I think we were all on board. I think we're always trying to find the right pieces and good pieces. And I think we're really excited about what he brings as a football player. But I see a guy that's maturing. I see a guy that we're excited to put out there and watch him grow and get better. And you guys will see him out there today. He obviously is a tremendous athlete, but I love watching him in meetings, because in meetings he's been so dialed in, taking great notes. He knows he's a little bit behind, not a lot, but a little bit behind in terms of what the veterans are doing. But his intentionality in the meeting room has been really cool for me to see.
One of the reasons why I wanted you to listen to that video or hear that sound or whatever is that the Cowboys have started to put into practice what they talked about when they first acquired George Pickens, in the fact that, like, they do not view him as a one-dimensional, he only does one thing player with the Dallas Cowboys. In fact, he's going to be moving all over the field, and CeeDee Lamb had his most success out of the slot. If you look at the points per position for CeeDee Lamb, whenever he's in the slot, that is something that has just been great. But Dak Prescott also excels throwing the ball deep. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity with George Pickens. They're going to find a variety of ways to get him involved in the offense. Now, the deep ball is still going to be a threat. Like, that's not going away. But the fact that they're opening up other avenues for him, that if he can get a couple more routes in the slot, if he can get a couple more shorter routes, just to kind of mix it up, try to keep it, like not so predictable is I think the thing that you want. You want this to be a little bit, you don't want to see anytime that George Pickens is lined up that you're just expecting him to run down the field straight without a moment's thought or anything like that. That's what you're trying to avoid. And at the same time, it's going to still open things up for CeeDee Lamb. So I'm so excited. Even so, like I turned in an article to NFL.com talking about this thing, and I wasn't as high as George Pickens, like even a week ago. And again, this isn't about going and reading, stats and be like, well, so-and-so was 10 for 10 and this way. Like, throw that stuff away. Those stats, preseason snaps and all that stuff, it's garbage. Like, even talking about Caleb Williams and even talking about the stuff, and I heard Albert Breer talking earlier today where he's like, yeah, like it's been a slog for Caleb. Like, of course it is. We're 4 or 5 days into camp. It shouldn't be great. Like, it's not going to be great. It's impossible for it to be great. And if you want these players to excel, to be the players that you expect them to be, you want them to get the repetitions in. And you want them to have as much thrown at them as possible so their football IQ goes up, which is exactly what's happening with a number of these players. So I fully endorse what's going on with the Dallas Cowboys right now. I know that when Brian Schottenheimer came out a couple of days ago, said, I was Sean McVay before Sean McVay was Sean McVay back in 2005. You're like, bro, don't be this person. You sound like a bitter comic who's like, hey, this guy stole my act. Who was it? Dennis Leary stole somebody's joke, whatever it was, the Carlos Mencia type thing. But at the same time, I don't know. I really like what I'm hearing out of the Cowboys camp. And if they are committed to moving George Pickens around and not just limiting him to running deep and that's it, making him a one-dimensional player, if they really start expanding the route tree for George Pickens, this is going to be somebody that you're going to want to have in your drafts. All right, Shane, this is the time where we can go through, and if I see some, I will, too early to tell. Why don't we bring it with Carl right here with a comment right here. Colston Loveland versus Trey McBride in potential receptions this year. Now, one of the players that when I'm talking about the elite level of when I'm talking about the elite level of the tight end position, nobody, listen, Trey McBride is by himself. Him and Brock Bowers, and I'm going to put George Kittle there, are have truly separated themselves from everybody. And last season, when you look at the numbers, the touchdowns for Trey McBride, you have to understand, like, he is not going to go 14 games without catching a touchdown. That was an aberration. That is not that, like, as much as you would watch a player and watch him score a touchdown in 10 consecutive games, and you say to yourself, listen, this is not sustainable. At the same time, being held out of the end zone is not sustainable for a player of the caliber of Trey McBride. So I really love it. I listen, I would take Trey McBride. But even as I said moments ago, if I end up with Kittle, McBride, Brock Bowers, I still would like to draft Colson Loveland just to have on my team. And I know people will be like, it's ridiculous to have 2 tight ends on your team. And they always say this about quarterbacks as well. But it's like, listen, you need backups at every position. Like you always need, like the bye week at the very least. But again, like this is bench spaces. I don't know what people use their bench space for. Like I need 9 receivers. Like, wow, like who is your 9th receiver? Is he better than having Colston Loveland if this guy ends up breaking out? And again, even beyond trade pieces, just having an insurance policy. And if you have good players, and I found this plenty of times in a couple of teams that I was very successful with last season, I had great bench players who I didn't play, but I still was like, well, nobody else is playing them either. So I don't have to go against them. Trey McBride was one of them. I think I had Bowers and Trey McBride somehow in one of my teams. In a single tight end league. Was it McBride? No, it's John. I'm sorry. It was Jonnu Smith. It was Jonnu. It was Jonnu and Brock Bowers. And everybody, like people are not going to make a trade for Jonnu Smith or do whatever. But I'm like, I'm happy to just have Jonnu Smith on the bench because he's not on your starting lineup. Like you got to think about this a little bit. All right. I will look through these. Okay, bring up Greg Stevens' question. The Bears have a middle-of-the-pack quarterback that can't carry a team. No great run game. This isn't a good team. Who are you? Why? Like, a middle-of-the-pack quarterback. This is the assessment that we're making right now. Middle-of-the-pack. I mean, if you're saying middle-of-the-pack quarterback, then who are the truly elite quarterbacks? So Jordan Love is a middle-of-the-pack quarterback. Jared Goff would be considered a middle-of-the-pack quarterback. Pretty much every quarterback. So all the NFC North quarterbacks would be middle of the pack. Stafford, middle of the pack. Brock Purdy, middle of the pack. Who are the quarterbacks who lead teams to victory? Who are they? What's the shorthand list? Trevor Lawrence, mid, I guess. So you have Burrow, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. That's the list? That's it. It's 4 guys. So every other quarterback is middle of the pack. You have 4 elite level quarterbacks, and then everybody else is middle of the pack. I know everybody wants to go and put Jaden Daniels in there. Everybody wanted to put Anthony Richardson into that category last year as well. Just pointing that out. I think we're fine. Okay. Windy City Twins. Hey, Rank, what percent chance you give Caleb to throw 30-plus touchdowns this year? Also, bet few could guess that 5 quarterbacks that did it last year who had 30 touchdown passes last year. I don't know. 30 touchdown passes, if you average 2 a game over a 17-game season, that would give you 34. That's a lot. That's a lot to ask. It depends on the scheme. I wonder, was Jared Goff one of those guys? I'm going to look up Jared Goff. I keep going to Jared Goff's. I don't think that it's fair to go after Jared Goff because he was in his, 3rd year with Ben Johnson. Last season, 37 touchdowns, 30 touchdowns. If you look at his numbers from 2023, like this is the thing that I don't understand whenever people are going after Caleb Williams. And even if you think that Caleb Williams is mid or whatever you want to say, that like him and Jared Goff are both former number 1 quarterbacks. I think it's fair to say that Caleb Williams came into the NFL with higher expectations than Jared Goff. Jared Goff was drafted in an era where you're like, well, I guess we'll just take a quarterback. Like, I don't know what else. I guess it's Goff. Caleb Williams was the guy that for 2 years, 3 years was like, this is going to be the guy. And you know what? Trevor Lawrence was the same way. Trevor Lawrence, you could also argue, has not really fully reached his potential, and that's fine. And I think that's fair to say. And who knows? But guys like Joe Burrow certainly are. Some of the other, so you never, Matthew Stafford was the number 1 overall pick who ended up being very good. 30 touchdowns. I look at what Jared Goff did in 2023, where he had 4,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. And that is a thing too. When everybody points to Caleb Williams' interception total from last year, like that mirrored what he did in college. he didn't throw a lot of interceptions in college either. Like, he is not a quarterback that puts the ball in harm's way a lot. I think that when you look at Jared Goff's number, his first number was with with Tony Lynn. So I'm not even going to count that. But if you look at Jared Goff in 2022, Ben Johnson leading the team, 4,400 yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 picks. That's a number that I think we're looking at. I think less than 10 interceptions. I think around 28 touchdowns, but I think over 4,000 yards. And once he gets over 4,000 yards, every hater is going to have to go out there and find a new thing to go after Bears quarterbacks with. So considering it is going to be, going to be a new system and everything, 30 touchdowns is a bit rich, but you know what? Like, I'm not ruling it out. All right, the quarterbacks who did do it last year were Burrow, Lamar, Mayfield. That doesn't shock me. Darnold. That is the thing too. I love that there's a conversation going on in here into the chat. So here is my thing: is I do believe, and here's the thing with Caleb Williams. Again, we've seen a lot of the reports that, hey, things haven't always been what they thought they were going to be. It's dicey. People are keeping stats and everything like that. But honestly, you got to move past that. You really just can't keep looking at these dumb statistics. It is just such a ridiculous thing to keep track of. Just asinine. All right. I had some other questions on the Twitter machine. They did not come through in the chat here on, but there will be some other questions. There was a question I had. Oh, so somebody did bring up Darnold. I saw this. Somebody asked me this the other day. What do we do with Sam Darnold in our leagues? A lot of people are sleeping on Sam Darnold because they feel that once he gets out from underneath KOC, he is not going to be as good as he was. I understand that. Sam Darnold had obviously his breakout season. Will the numbers be the same? But I think that it's very similar to something that happened with Geno Smith. And over the last couple of years, Geno Smith, during his first season in Seattle with Dave Canales, when he was the offensive coordinator, went out there, had the monster year. Canales leaves. His touchdown totals goes from 30 to 20. Even with Liam Cohen as his offensive coordinator, now obviously both Dave Canales and Liam Cohen are both gone from Seattle. And it's a whole new thing. So I'm trying to think. So by the way, I get to be on CHGO later on this evening. But to finish this point about Sam Darnold, like, I like Sam Darnold. He is one of the players. I like Sam Darnold, and I don't want to diminish Sam Darnold or anything he was able to accomplish during his time with the Minnesota Vikings. But yeah, I downgraded him. And it is one of those things, like, I have him in one of the lowest tiers because I do feel like, I would rather take a risk with J.J. McCarthy based on what Sam Darnold did last year. I would rather take the risk with J.J. McCarthy being this year's Sam Darnold than this year's Sam Darnold being last year's Sam Darnold, if that makes any sense to you. Also, a big note, too, that we saw last week. Hold on, let me take a swig here. Justin Fields. Yeah, Justin Fields battled through a little bit of an injury, but everything appears to be copacetic, ready to go back with the Jets. I hope that we get to the point someday where we don't have to, as far as Bears fans go, where we don't have to have the internal war of, like, who is better, Caleb or Justin. Like, that is going to be something that, like, I'm happy when that goes to rest. Like, I'm good with that, like, never discussing that again. I would like to be past that at some point. But at the same time, I still support Justin Fields. And I still feel like he is going to end up being a really good quarterback. And I feel like he could be a really good quarterback for you in fantasy football as well. So when I look at Justin Fields, if I get past the initial stud quarterbacks, the elite of the elite, you know who they are. We talked about it Burrow, Lamar, Lamar. Why am I spacing? Burrow, Lamar, even Jaden Daniels. Oh, I even throw in there. Burrow, Lamar, Josh Allen. There's the guy. Jeez Louise. After seeing all those Christian Wilkins highlights, I should not have forgotten Josh Allen. But when you get past those guys and you start getting down there and the weight on the quarterback people, Baker Mayfield is a guy that I would really like. I think that Baker Mayfield is going to be very good. I know that a lot of the Buccaneers fans were upset that my season prediction for them, I think I had them at 8 wins. The Buccaneer fans are so funny to me. Like, you just think we're going to win 8 games? You won 9 games last year and won the division. Why do you think you're better? I don't know. But I still think Baker Mayfield's a very good quarterback. I still think that Baker Mayfield's going to go out there and put up some huge points. But after we get past that level, I really like Justin Fields. And I think that Justin Fields, is a good quarterback. Can you bring up Greg Stevens? His last little thing. His thing about a quarterback should pass for 30, 40 touchdowns. All right. You can't beat Goff. He's not good under pressure. Where's the pressure coming from? I got to say this. Oh, look at RJ Smith. Bring up RJ Smith's thing, if we could. Okay. Hey, Rank, how do you feel? Do you feel that Detroit will take a step back considering all the offseason losses? I've seen various reports that Goff is struggling in camp. And again, RJ, if I'm going to sit here and say, don't get excited, don't get overly critical because of everything that's going on with camp with Caleb Williams, I have to extend the same courtesy to Jared Goff, who again is coming off a season where he threw for 4,500 yards and 37 touchdowns. However, when you talk about the losses, now obviously you lose Ben Johnson, that's significant. One of the other ones that I think that people are not really kind of considering is Tanner Engstrom, who is now the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets. And we're sitting here talking about Justin Fields. Tanner Engstrand is he's a great young offensive mind. And that is going to be somebody that if the Jets have a modicum of success this season, is going to be one of those guys that ends up on that list of this is somebody to keep an eye out. Next head coach of the Miami Dolphins or whoever is going to be looking for a coach at the end of Pittsburgh Steelers. When the Pittsburgh Steelers hire Tanner Engstrand from the New York Jets, remember this one. Not only that, but the Detroit Lions have been stung by the retirement of, was it Frank Ragnow? That's where it starts to unravel. That's where it starts to come apart because, you look at it and that is where Jared Goff really benefited from over the last number of years. Now, obviously, having a great coaching helps, and Jared Goff is a very talented player. But when you have an opportunity to go out there and play behind a great offensive line, the Lions had one of the best offensive lines in the game. And to go from what he had to what he has now is a significant drop-off. So I would be very, very wary. And his quarterback coach, RJ makes the point too. JT Barrett is also good. Yeah, there's 3 guys. I always keep forgetting to bring up JT Barrett as well as another loss for the Detroit Lions. I feel very comfortable not going after Jared Goff or even Amon-Ra St. Brown. Although I will say, Jahmyr Gibbs, somebody was asking me about over the weekend. As I was sitting there, I was coaching my daughter's soccer team in AYSO Nationals. We made it all the way to Saturday before being felled. Didn't make it to Sunday. However, somebody was like, hey, Rank, what's up? Hey, how are you? Good to meet you. Here's a pin for my daughter's team. It's great to meet you. Hey, what do you think about Jahmyr Gibbs? Jahmyr Gibbs is, I think, the one of all the players. Of all the players, here's what I will say about Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is still going to be an elite level running back, despite the loss of the coaching staff, on the offensive line, all of that stuff notwithstanding, even if Jared Goff regresses this season, Jahmyr Gibbs still has an opportunity to go out there to be a top 5 fantasy player. He catches the ball. He does well in space. He creates his own fantasy points. He is almost unstoppable. He is almost team-proof at this point. When you think about some of the great running backs in fantasy who have flourished, like if you think about CMC with some not so great teams with the Carolina Panthers, still going out there and putting up fantasy points, that's a very real situation this year for Jahmyr Gibbs. Being on a team that is not playing well, but still he goes out there and dominates. And I think that David Montgomery will be good as well. All right, listen, I think we went over. Oh, we did go over. All right, well, listen, I want to thank everybody for stopping by Fantasy Island. Make this your Monday night destination. I will be here in about a half an hour. If you go to CHGO, I will be joining Greg Braggs along with Drac Dr. Phil and Shane Marsaw as we talk about the Chicago Bears more in depth. We want to thank you for all your fantasy questions and all the input that you had this evening. We will be back, and we'll see you later. All right, everybody, thanks for being here. Hope to see you soon. Shane, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.